Just as I was crying, she was like, oh, it's okay, black people have too many relatives anyway. He openly admitted to going into my room on my fault, that I was wasting my potential, and that if she was my parent, she would disown me. See her as my boss, then I should return the mug that she bought me. And we took out your underwear and decided to smell it. Hi everyone, welcome back to the channel. My name is Nsuku. If you are new here, please do consider subscribing. So as promised, today will be part 2 of the So You Want to Be an Au Pair series, where I will be sharing my personal experience. I just want to put a disclaimer that this video is not meant to be a blame game or to make one party look more guilty than the other. I simply want to share my experience. So if you do find yourself in a similar situation, you know what to do or what not to do, and basically just to share my experience so you know that you're not alone and your feelings are valid. So let's get into it. As usual, for situations like this, I made notes on my laptop so that I don't find myself saying things that aren't correct or omitting things that I feel like are important to share or add to the story. So yeah, let's get started. As I've already mentioned in a different video, but if you weren't aware, I'm no longer with my old host family, and I will give an update either at the end of this video or as a separate video of what is currently happening in my life. So my former host family found my profile on Au Pair World, asked me for an interview, and that happened, and we hit it off pretty instantly. It was my first time being an au pair and also their first time hosting an au pair. So I tried my best to be as prepared as possible for the interview, and I had a long list of questions for them. Looking back, I feel like there were some other questions that I could have asked them, but we live and we learn. And yeah, I know, like, if I was to go back in time, I could have done things differently or asked different questions, but yeah, that's what life is. You grow, you keep moving forward. Anyway, we had the opportunity to meet in person because they were on vacation in South Africa, and we went to a really nice breakfast at a wine farm, one of my favorite wine farms actually, in Stellenbosch. And yeah, we had breakfast together, got to know each other even more, and yeah, there was a lot of things that they wanted to show me in Germany, and very exciting kind of environment. I think I had my expectations quite high based off of our interactions and our conversations, and I was very, very excited to come here. So when I moved in, everything was still okay, but then they couldn't show me as much as they wanted to because they had a baby who didn't like being in the car, and he would scream every time you even put him near a car seat. And I think towards the end of my time there, he was actually able to wrestle his way out of his car seat. So being in the car with him wasn't always the easiest thing. So the first month there was basically for me to get used to being with the baby, and him to get used to me as a person as well, because obviously I'm not his mom, he doesn't know me, I'm a stranger, and it's pretty hard for him. So yeah, we took a whole month for him to get to know me, and for the mom to show me around, and for me to sort out all of my admin and whatnot. And then I officially started in the first week of March. And I feel like that's kind of when things started to go downhill. I honestly found it quite difficult to take care of a 1-year-old, especially as somebody who had little to no experience with children. I mean, yeah, playing with children from time to time and seeing them and all of that stuff is a little bit different when you go from having maximum 1 hour interaction with a baby to having 8 hours a day. It's very, very different. There's diaper changes, feeding, crying, biting, hitting, all of that juicy stuff, you know? And obviously, because I was still new at this, it took me a while to feel like I actually know what I'm supposed to be doing. A lot of the times I felt lost or that I didn't know what I was doing. Like, I knew when the child was supposed to have his meals and his naps and things like that. But yeah, it was quite an interesting experience. It was extremely draining as well, especially because in the beginning I was supposed to be with him from 6:30 in the morning, and I mean that was fine. But when it comes to the end of the day, the mom had a I'm flexible kind of attitude. So sometimes she'd find herself accepting meetings that went after the agreed upon time. So in the beginning, we spoke about working from 6:30 until 3:30, um, which then changed to 4 o'clock, which sometimes would be 5 or 6, depending on the mom's flexibility and work meetings and things like that. And I think when you work from home, sometimes the expectations from your employees are a little bit different and they just think you're always readily available, which is a situation that we often found ourselves in. I found myself extremely exhausted in the beginning, and I would sometimes take naps with the child. And I remember having this conversation with the mom, and the reaction was, "Oh, welcome to being an adult." But eventually, she did adjust her working hours because she worked from home, and so she moved her times from me needing to be there at 6:30 to 7:30 until 4 p.m., with the occasional unexpected extra hours. Like, I have had days where I had to be available until like 6:30, so the unexpected days. Thankfully for me, I was only babysitting Mondays to Thursdays with the occasional grandma days. So on some Wednesdays or whenever she was available, the baby's grandmother would come and take care of him for a day, and I could basically take that day off. And looking back, I think I could have been more vocal in terms of the scheduling, because I think that was like my least favorite part. So I had an epiphany while I was editing, and I remember how there were so many moments where we had a lot of miscommunication or some communication problems, where if I had to babysit on days that were like my day off, I would ask multiple times, like, what time do you need me to be available? Or since I have to babysit on a weekend, and usually weekends were my day off, I would ask, like, okay, since I have to be here on Sunday, what time do you need me to be here on Sunday? Or they would be like, oh, we have a date on Sunday, and then all of a sudden be like, actually, it's going to be on Saturday or whatever. So there was a lot of scheduling problems, or like situations where they didn't have a clear set schedule, so they would just tell me stick around, be available or whatever. And there were times where I'd have to like move around my personal plans because of a planning issue on their side. Or something that happened towards the end was there was some miscommunication between us, where she said to me these would be my working days, and so I was like, okay, cool, then I can make my own plans on a day that she's actually not working. But it turned out that she changed her mind and decided that no, she wants to work on the Monday. And I was still in the city at the time, and I had to go home like pretty late in the evening. Thankfully, there was still like a bus or something that I could take, but I think I got home at like 10 p.m. that day, because of like a miscommunication or like a not so clear plan on her side, because I still had it in my mind that she'd be working Wednesdays and Thursdays. And I asked her before, like, please let me know if anything changes, or like text me so that I know that, okay, I've decided that I want to work on Monday instead of working on Wednesday and Thursday. So yeah, that was a little bit stressful. I was so stressed on that day and super panicked, and yeah, it just wasn't nice. Like, just not having clear communication or clear scheduling was a big stressor. And both of the parents always made me feel like I wasn't allowed to be tired, or that's how it came across for me. I don't obviously know how they meant it, because yeah, they would sometimes say things like, oh, I wish I had your job, it looks so easy, or like, why are you tired all the time, it's not like you do anything. And yeah, I think in terms of things like that, I definitely should have stood up more for myself, or actually been more vocal about how I felt about a lot of the way that the schedule worked. Yeah, anyway, moving on. I honestly didn't think I was going to make it past 3 months with their child, because I felt like I couldn't handle it. Like, I thought I liked kids, but liking kids and working with them every single day are two different things. And I feel like we don't talk enough about this. And for me in the beginning, I felt like they were a really, really nice family, and I felt like ending my contract early with them would be like a huge disadvantage for them, because they definitely relied on me for childcare. Like, the child didn't have any other options besides for me watching him. So yeah, he wasn't going to Kita or like kindergarten or anything like that. Like, every single day when his parents headed out to work, I needed to be available there to take care of him, you know. So ending my contract early definitely would have been like a big disadvantage for them, because then they'd need to find a new person who would be able to put up with those kinds of living arrangements. And then fast forward to around the end of March. I think it was the end of March. I can't remember properly. We were sitting and having dinner and talking about like the baby's tummy, because you know, with babies, um, they have like these super like round tummies immediately after eating, because that's where all the food goes. And that's something that the dad said. He actually was like, we know where everybody's food goes. For the baby, it goes to his tummy, and to you, referring to me, it goes to your rear end, like your butt. And at first I didn't like hear that statement properly, and I thought maybe like I don't know what it is. Like, sometimes I couldn't understand him that well, because I felt like he wasn't enunciating his words that well, and when English is not your first language, it's understandable. But I didn't hear it that well, and his wife actually repeated it, and she was like, yeah, this is what he said. And I found it a little bit weird. But then I just like was like, okay, weird, and kept it moving. And the following week, we were having dinner again. I remember this day so well. We were actually having sushi for dinner, and the dad made another comment about coming into my room and opening drawers and things like that. And he openly admitted to going into my room on a weekend where I wasn't there, or I think it was, if it was in March, it was probably like at the art hall or something like that. Anyway, it's not important where I was, but I wasn't home, and he walked into my room. I never used to lock my door when I wasn't there, because I was just like, they're probably gonna respect my privacy or something like that. I'd only lock it if I went to sleep at night as like a reflex. Anyway, so we were sitting having dinner and chit-chatting, and the next thing the dad says was, you know, the baby went into your room and I went in with him, and he started opening your drawers and stuff, and we took out your underwear and decided to smell it. In his defense, he said that he wanted to make sure that everything was clean. It doesn't make it any better, to be honest. I feel like I was so speechless in this moment. I literally was just like, I don't think I even spoke. I literally just sat there like shocked, because I was just like, I don't understand, like what? And I thought maybe like Yeah, like even in this very moment when I'm talking about it, I'm still speechless. So I literally, the first thing that I did when we ended dinner was I called my sister and I literally told her, and I was like, this is very, very weird. It's so creepy, actually. Like, I don't even realize, I don't think he realizes or he meant it in that way, but it's, first of all, why are you going through my things? And second of all, if you did something like that, why would you openly admit it? That's, yeah, that was really weird. I think then I literally was just like, I need to find an exit plan because this is weird. Like, yeah, even right now it's weird. Actually, I need to move on. That was weird. And yeah, that that's still like is something I can't get out of my head because it's extremely creepy and it makes me speechless all the time when I think about it. And I just think, um, honestly, looking back, I feel like I should have left in that moment, especially because this also happened in front of his wife. And I don't know if they had a private conversation afterwards, but in that moment, she didn't say, honey, that's weird or whatever. Like, um, or say, I don't know, like she also didn't say anything because I think she also found it a little bit creepy, but I don't know what she thinks or what their relationship is like. It's none of my business. Um, Moving on. I'm literally just gonna read off of what I wrote from now on, actually, because I have a lot of feelings right now. And if I keep looking at the camera while also trying to remember all of the events, yeah, it's not gonna work. So I'm just gonna keep reading. Um, to be honest, I started to feel like I wasn't part of their family. A lot of the time, I felt like they needed somebody to watch their child, but couldn't afford to have a nanny. We did actually have a conversation about this when I asked, like, why did you choose an au pair over having like a professional take care of your child? And it's very expensive in Germany, so a lot of people don't use professional services unless if they take their children to a kindergarten. Anyway, yeah, I felt like they just opted for the cheap labor. And I remember having a conversation like that with the mom, but not in regard to my time with them because this was still pretty early into living with them. And I don't even remember where this conversation came from. I think it was, okay, sorry. I was sharing something with her that I learned at an au pair workshop. We had an au pair workshop in the city that I went to. And I remember saying something along the lines of how some people just wanted cheap labor based on the horror stories that I heard from people that day, and not knowing that I was about to have one of my own. This was before the underwear incident, by the way. And she completely misunderstood the conversation that I was having with her. But at the same time, I also feel like there was a lot of miscommunication between the two of us, or sometimes we would try to have conversations and just the one person misunderstands it or misinterprets what the other person is saying. So at some point, I stopped trying because I always felt like it. Yeah, anyway. Um, Anyway, she misunderstood what I said, like a lot of conversations that we had before, and she told her husband about it. And she must have been sitting on this one for a while because I attended the workshop in March, and this conversation happened in May, like the weekend after I visited my cousin. And she and I were having dinner. The dad used to travel a lot for work, so he wasn't there. And he usually wasn't there during the week. So she started off this conversation about how she felt like I only cared about money, and really said that it really hurt her that I don't feel like I'm part of their family. And she went on and on about how they can't pay me more because it's my fault that I was wasting my potential, and that if she was my parent, she would disown me and all of that stuff. And I just sat there for most of the conversation while she was going on and on and on about all of this stuff, like the wasting potential thing, and how there was a lot of like misunderstanding between the two of us about what an au pair is actually supposed to be doing. And she gave me a mug before, was it before I went to go visit my cousin or after? I can't remember. I think it must have been before I went to go visit my cousin. But at the during this conversation, she felt like if we were gonna have a good working relationship and I see her as my boss, then I should return the mug that she bought me. I actually wish I was holding the mug right now because I was, yeah. Anyway, she wanted me to give her back the mug that she got me as a gift, because in a working relationship, your boss would never buy you a gift. And at the end of the conversation, when I finally had the chance to speak, I brought up the fact that I have 3 university degrees now. And if I only cared about money, I wouldn't be in their house having my boundaries crossed and being treated like I don't matter. I mean, these are the same people who said to me that they can't teach me how to ride a bike because if I fell and I broke my ankle, who would watch their child? Or when I asked about being sick, it was, oh, you mean like being sick, like you can't get out of bed, like you can't do anything kind of situation. And for me, it felt more like I was just there to watch their child and nothing more. I mean, if you're telling me that I'm wasting my potential, I don't think I should be living in your house either, because clearly you don't want me there. And that's what I felt a lot of the time. And I also felt like, particularly the mom, no offense to her if they're watching this, was extremely unsympathetic. I don't know what it's like in German culture, and yeah, I know some people say like this is such a German thing. They are typically like that, or seem like cold people. So when I did lose a family member and I was like really, really hurt about this, it was a month into me living in their house. I cried so much when this happened, actually. And this woman said to me that Black people have too many relatives. Literally, just as I was crying, she was like, oh, it's okay, Black people have too many relatives anyway. And the whole like wasting my potential conversation made me feel like confirm what I already felt, that they didn't value me as a person, let alone as a member of their family. And this was the same person who didn't like driving to work because she felt like the time that she was driving there, she was paying me for nothing. So yeah, when we had this conversation in May, I cried so much. I spent most of that time crying. And I did consider going home, actually. I looked up plane tickets like almost every single day. And I didn't want to go to a different family because I was worried that things would get worse, and I didn't want to deal with being with children anymore. Every day I would wake up to go watch somebody's child, a child that was constantly biting me and hitting me and kicking me and pulling my hair, and the parents would laugh about it or say things like, you're just wasting your potential. So yeah, eventually my mental health did start to decline. And there was also a part of me that wanted to leave with a plan. So even though I was waking up every single day and looking up plane tickets, I didn't want to go home without having a plan. I know like my family is there for me and I can always depend on them. It's not like if I decide to go back to South Africa, I'm going to be homeless or something like that. But there's this sense of dread that I didn't do more with my time here. I wouldn't want to be going home to not having a job or not having my own place to live with, but I would rather be going home to live with my parents, and that made me feel like I would be a failure. So I decided to stick it out, even though I got to a point where I really, really hated it, and I would wake up with so much anxiety. Oh, I hated Sundays so much. I'd wake up on Sunday morning and remember oh, I have to deal with this again tomorrow. So Sundays, I hate it so much. I used to go into the city every single weekend just to get away for a little bit to recharge, and it felt really good to do that. But it gave me so much anxiety to go back to the family, even though I was like, I'm just gonna stick it out and deal with it and whatever. So I finished my master's thesis, I finished my CV, I started looking for other ways to stay in Germany, and while I was taking time to figure that out, I did what I said already. I tried to minimize my interaction with them, except for when they needed me, because I just felt like any more interaction was just making me feel even worse, or even times where I felt like, I should be nicer, let me give them more of a chance. I still, like, I think subconsciously I was still holding on to that fact that it was people who I didn't feel like they wanted me there to begin with, or like, yeah, I really did start to feel like I wasn't supposed to be there, or I felt really uncomfortable being there. And there were even more things that I felt like would bring that up even more, like certain comments that were probably not even meant in a mean way, but because I already had this idea and mindset that mean person, um, I obviously internalized a lot of things that I shouldn't have. Oh, I need some water. This is a lot. So fast forward to June, lots of awkward encounters and passive aggressive behavior. My host family finally sat me down and told me that they don't need me anymore. I mentioned this in a previous video, but I don't know if it was clear enough, so I'll just kind of explain it right now. So my host mom decided that she was going to reduce her working days from 4 days to 2 days, and she wouldn't need me to babysit anymore, because when her mom was around, she would basically be helping for a day and a half. So it would just be that they wouldn't need an extra person to be watching the child anymore, and that her mom would be helping out with most of the babysitting. So yeah, like I think for me it was interesting how the conversation went, because she was like, yeah, I didn't think you would be bothered by this. One, because you don't look happy here anymore, which I definitely wasn't anymore. And she was just like, we figured you'd be fine because you could go stay with your family, or you have friends here that you visit every weekend, so you can just go stay with your friends or something. But they still needed me for July because the baby's grandmother was on vacation. They were kind enough to actually offer that I could still stay in their house in August while they were on vacation, but I decided against it, for many, many reasons. It was quite a thoughtful suggestion though, but it scared me to just be in their house alone for 3 weeks because they would have been on vacation. And everything is kind of far from the house itself. Like, just going to the nearest shop is like a 20-minute bus away, or like if you don't have a car, it's not that accessible to get around the little area. So yeah, I decided to leave anyway, and did other things. So after I left on the last day of July, so the 31st of July, and I went to go stay with a friend because we went to a music festival after that. And right now I'm still trying to figure things out. I definitely wouldn't be an au pair for another family, because it's been an interesting experience for me so far. I'm pretty grateful for the fact that I got to meet new and great people. And if it wasn't for my old host family, I probably wouldn't have met some of the people that I met, or had the experiences that I had. and I wouldn't have stories to tell now. I feel like I still try to find the humor in the situation instead of like going crazy over some of these traumatic moments. I find humor in things like the day they were going out of town and there was no food in the house. Well, there was food, but like not much. And the dad decided that he was gonna get takeout, but actually forgot to include me. And the mom then suggested that I eat tomatoes and mozzarella that were left in the fridge. I definitely laugh about the day when she said, "Thanks for cooking. I almost finished the rice, but then I still left some for you." And it was like 10 grains of rice that were left in the pot. I took a picture because I thought it was hilarious. Like I was on the phone with my mom when this interaction was happening, and she was like, "Oh, I left some rice for you." So I was like, "Where's the rice?" And I sent a photo to my mom because it was freaking hilarious. Obviously annoying, but also hilarious. And I still laugh about how, like, in the last week, I feel like I left the worst impression of my life because we went grocery shopping together, and when we were walking out of the store, it was pouring rain. And I am very, very clumsy. I'm surprised that this situation didn't happen sooner. But we were walking out of the grocery store and realized that it was raining. So I made a suggestion that I can come with the trolley with the groceries, and then she can run with the baby into the car. But yeah, I was running to the car and I actually like tipped over the groceries. I mean, it was raining, okay? And I mean, I'm laughing right now, but it wasn't funny in the moment. Like, all of the stuff tipped over, and this felt like such a movie. Hey, it was like pouring rain. All of the groceries went flying. So here I am, which is actually kind of stupid when I think about it, but I was carrying like a box and a bag. So the bag was fine, and I could take the bag and put it in the car really quickly. And the box got wet. So when I was trying to throw the groceries back into the box so I could carry it, it's obviously wet. So everything fell out again. So now I was like taking everything and like trying to shove it into the car. And unfortunately, there were some things that broke. It was like 2 bottles of food, like baby food and tomato sauce. And I still remember exactly because when we got into the car, she was like, "You owe my child his baby food." So yeah. I literally was soaking wet that day, like all the way to my underwear. Where I was sitting in the car, at least they have leather seats, like this, the entire seat was soaked. When we got home, I had to change out of everything, and then I washed all of the groceries and put them away. And my phone actually got wet. So if you can't even hear the audio that well, it's because of the rain on that day. So my phone got wet, like properly wet, that it wasn't charging anymore. I had to switch it off for 24 hours and like keep tapping it so that the water could come out. Thankfully, I have like an alternative phone, so I could use that alternative phone for the 24 hours. But yeah, it got wet and the speaker wasn't working at all. I had to actually use my earphones with it for like a week or something like that. And her friend actually was talking about how she had like a horrible grocery store experience, and she was talking about she took her baby with groceries shopping, and he like spilled the cream all over the floor and whatever, and she was like, "Oh, you think you had a bad shopping experience? Guess what my au pair did," and told her friend the whole situation. So that was great. Yeah, I don't know if it was a joke about the whole baby food situation. I wouldn't be surprised if it wasn't a joke because, yeah, anyway, gonna move on. Yeah, so I did decide that I was gonna move out at the end of July because it wasn't necessary for me to stay there in August especially, no one was going to be there and they didn't need me anymore, so I left. Where am I? Yeah. And when I did break the news to her and I told her that, yeah, I think I'm actually just gonna leave at the end of July now, it was, oh, why? Instead of, I didn't expect the reaction, obviously, but she was just like, yeah, I think you should leave too. And yeah, I actually remember this conversation. She was like, I think you should leave too. We have done so much for you. We even cook and we feel like you don't appreciate us. And even our friends have asked me what your problem is because we're so nice to you, but it's very obvious that you don't appreciate us. I'm kind of paraphrasing, but I still remember the day that we had this conversation. And I don't know why or if this was like an accurate feeling, emotion for me to feel, but I felt a little bit gaslit. And even worse when she was like bringing her friends into this whole situation. But I tried to talk to her about it and she was like, it's not necessary. So I put everything in a letter and I said everything, I hope, very respectfully. And just so if they decide to get another au pair, they at least know like, okay, this worked with our old au pair and this didn't. And I signed it and I just said thank you for the opportunity and for welcoming me into your beautiful home and just being there for 5 months, 6 months. There were so many milestones that I got to witness, like their baby walked for the first time while I was there. He got like most of his teeth while I was there. There's so many words that he said while I was there. So it was very nice to experience that with them. And yeah, I left well wishes for the future, so they know there was obviously a lot of weird things that happened, but there's no bad blood. And I still say like I wouldn't be in Germany and I wouldn't have met some of the people that I met or had the experiences that I had if I hadn't met them and lived with their family. Yeah, and on the 31st of July, she dropped me off at the train station and we haven't interacted much since then. Side note, her friend came to say goodbye to me and actually gifted me a ukulele. It's sitting at the back there. I don't think you can see it, but it's in my room. And I thought it was a really, really nice gesture because I mentioned that I want to learn how to play an instrument and the ukulele is one of the instruments. And she was like, we have an extra one that we don't use anymore. So they gave it to me and that was quite sweet. Her and her husband gave it to me. Yeah, anyway. So that is it. That is most of my experience with living with my old host family for about 5 months. It is my personal experience, and it doesn't mean that you will have that kind of experience or something similar. I think it's definitely important to take home message, communicate better. If you see red flags, run, honestly. And I've met so many other au pairs who've had great experiences, and now I am staying with a different host family and I'm having a really nice time right now. Like I'm really happy with where I am right now, and I think it's important to know like there are people who have bad experiences, and I think we highlight the bad experiences more because I don't think anyone would just casually be like, hey everyone, look at me, I'm having a great life, whatever. There are a lot of people who shared their bad experiences just so if you find yourself in that situation, you know what to do, or they just need advice, and that's why it's always bad experiences that are highlighted. But I do know some people who've had really nice experiences who are still with their original families. The one girl that I know, she's Canadian, but she's been an au pair in Germany for over 2 years. Not an au pair. She stayed with her original host family for a year, and they liked her so much that they sponsored her visa so that she could stay in Germany longer as a nanny, and she's still with their family. And there was another girl who shared her story with me, and she was telling me that she broke her ankle while she was being an au pair, and she couldn't do much for like 3 months. And her host family was like, it's super chilled, and they treated her so nicely, and they were really lovely to her. It wasn't oh, who's gonna take care of our kid if you can't work kind of situation. It was more like, oh, you're also our kid, we'll take care of you until you get better. And they didn't kick her out or anything like that. Like, she stayed there until she was fully healed. When I met her, I think she had been there for like 9 months or something at that point, and she was still having like a really nice time with her family. So yeah, it is important to remember that there are really great families out there. You just have to look, and then when you find them and you don't feel like they're matching your expectations, you can always rematch with a different family. You can always rematch. You're allowed to stop, do something else, maybe do a volunteer program. Like, you're not here as a slave. They might say that you're not allowed to leave, which I've heard that before, but you can leave. This is as much your time and your experience as it is theirs. And if you are in a situation that you feel like doesn't serve you or makes you feel uncomfortable, yeah, you can always leave. If you do have positive experiences, please do share them in the comments below, or like share them with me, or just send me like a message on Instagram. I actually think we should do this. I just had an idea while filming this video. If you have positive au pair experiences, please share them with me in the description down below, or send me a message on Instagram, or send me an email. My email is in the description down below, so I can actually read your stories. Or if you feel comfortable sharing a video, please do that as well. I think it's really nice that we highlight positive stories in this situation as well, not just the negative stories. Yeah, anyway, I hope that you enjoyed this video. Please remember to like, share, subscribe. Please do share this video. I feel like, yeah, it's important. If you know somebody who's in a similar situation, share it with them. And if you are my old host family watching this video, please don't sue me. Actually, you can't sue me. Sorry. Yeah, anyway, I love you a lot, and I hope to see you in the next one. Bye.